Hello and welcome to the Swan Song Project Podcast. My name is Ben Buddy Stack and I'm the founder of the Swan Song Project and the host of this podcast. The Swan Song Project is a charity and we help people living with terminal illnesses or dealing with bereavement to write and record an original song. We believe in celebrating lives, making memories and leaving legacies. If you'd like to find out more about the charity, you can check out our website, which is swansongproject.co.uk. The podcast features songwriters. In each episode, I have a different songwriter on. I ask them to share with me one of their songs. We have a chat about how they wrote it. I ask them to share a songwriting tip, and I also ask them for a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. This episode features Manuka, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, today I'm here with Manuka. Thanks for joining me, Manuka.
Thank you for having me, Ben.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to talking to you. So this is the Swan Song Project Podcast. If you're new to this podcast, each episode I have a different songwriter on and I ask them to share with me one of their songs and we have a conversation about how they wrote it. And then I ask them to share a songwriting tip and then I'll ask them to share a song with us that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. So would you like to introduce your first song for us, please, Manuka?
Yeah, sure. So the track that I'm going to play for you is... sorry, did you hear that? It was the plumbing, the pipes.
That's all right, yeah.
It just was like, okay, awkward. All right, yeah. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. I'm in a block of flats, that's why. So it's just, okay. So this track is Tribal Man. It's the acoustic version. And I'm actually going to be releasing it, hopefully, fingers crossed, in September. But yeah, definitely have a listen.
I wish I could be human and live the tribal way. Wake up to the bird song of nature every day. Live like a tribal man. I'm running round in circles, lost in a forest of concrete. The dark gray keeping out the light. Allow the shine guide my path. Lead me to the clearing. My heart drives me to.
Okay, fantastic. So that was Tribal Man by Manuka. Yeah, it's a cool song. You said that's the acoustic version. Is the other version like a full band version or what's?
Well, it's got like a cajon and an upbeat vibe to it. And I had actually released an EP called Inspired a couple of years ago. And I felt, I mean, especially the last couple of years, I felt a lot of my music that I had released already didn't really resonate with who I am as an artist, which is interesting because I'll delve in that later as well. But, as individuals, we are constantly interchanging and that those songs had a lot of outside influence as well. So even though they're great songs and I do love them, I don't feel that they've got that same connection to me as an artist as I was hoping and intending to, especially during when I was actually writing the song. So that's the reason why I actually took the songs down and I actually removed my EP and cleared my whole artist profile. And I put them on Bandcamp, so if anyone wanted to listen to it, then that's fine. But really wanted to wipe the slate clean and just give myself some self-reflection of who I am, who I want to portray the world as an artist, and what sound I want to give out as well. So my main intention is all about the lyrics and the melodic tone to the way I sing and raw emotions. I like being able to connect with people on a deeper level and kind of resonate how I'm feeling in the same way when I'm performing live. So when I perform live, there is a different kind of essence to when someone is hearing my track on an MP3 or like listening to wherever. So I want to try and transpose that feeling and that energy of what you get when you hear me live to your own devices, basically. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a challenge, that, isn't it? So it's about, and there's some acts, manage to do it perfectly, aren't they? And like the records are kind of almost, it's never, I don't think it's never quite as good. It's a different thing, isn't it? But like there's some acts where like one's, it's like completely different, isn't it? The live and the, so it's always a challenge. And what you're saying as well about like kind of finding what your authentic expression is as an artist, I guess it feels like it's a kind of a constant quest in many ways. This might be like a strange question, but I guess like, do you know what it was about the stuff before that you feel isn't quite right? If you know you.
Yeah, I feel that there was just too much going on, like in the track. So when you're working with the producer or any other individual, like if you've got a friend in with you in the studio and you're just bouncing off ideas, you get that energy and that excitement, and you have a tendency just to put so much in, and then it's just like, whoa, it's just completely changed. Sometimes that's absolutely like magic, you've just created some genius there, but other times, like for me, for example, it's very difficult because like what I'm trying to portray is more about a feeling, and when you add a lot of sound or even if effects or a lot of instruments, it kind of loses that rawness that was initially there as a songwriter. But I mean, I know artists that have done it so beautifully. I mean, like I'm so inspired by Corinne Bailey Rae and how she's, her first debut album was like my go-to, and I was just like, oh, this is magic. I love this, and she's got so much like texture and emotion and like diversity in her songs, and she's been able to do that through collaborating with different musicians and like working with producers. But for me, for example, I have tried that, and I felt that my own individuality and like what my emotions are obviously not going to be the same, and my lens is going to be different. So I want to be able to have people interpret my songs however they will, but also have the opportunity to see it through my eye. A lot of times you don't really know, or we like to keep hidden our true feelings behind the song and like to keep it very what's the word, opaque with with the actual meanings and the intention behind writing a song. So I wanted to do the reverse of that and just lay out all my cards and just be very raw and kind of have that vulnerability there as well. So Darling Come Home was pretty much that, and I think that was the start of a thought process that made me want to change my whole approach to writing music and embodying emotion, embodying the element, and how music can make you feel and take you back to a certain place, and really get immersed in it, and sometimes even overwhelmed. So, like just to give it a bit more of a deeper experience for listeners.
Yeah. And Darling Come Home is a song that we're going to talk about a little bit further on in the podcast in a bit more detail, aren't we? Yeah, it's interesting stuff. And it's something I think is kind of often like overlooked, but I guess it's not something people think about from an outside perspective of like that part of that journey as an artist of part of it's trial and error and part of it's discovering who you are and what you're trying to say and how you say it. That's one of the hardest parts of it. Like you can write a song at any stage, but the more songs you write, the more you kind of connect with what find out what. And like you said about you, a lot of time when you get the option of putting lots of things on, you're like, oh yeah, let's have a bit of that. Let's have saxophone. Let's have a choir here. And then like you can get carried away with that and be actually that's not what I'm trying to do. That's not what's best. And sometimes it's different song by song, isn't it? It's like some artists are different, but like you might have a song next year where you do feel like you need all that stuff for it because that's what that song needs. But it's a constant journey.
Yeah, I mean, like with Tribal Man, this song, it was a happy accident. I didn't even intend on writing it, and it was a song for my own healing. And I was at a point in my life where I was working 2 jobs. I was trying to make time in the studio. I was trying to start up my own business as well. Like I wanted to host music acoustic nights where the artists get more money. So and like trying to promote artists and actually help change the culture within music business around locally. This is just based off my own experiences. So I was just trying to balance so many different eggs and then I just couldn't cope and I was really mentally exhausted. I didn't realize and I got really low. And then I just took the time, like near my house, I don't live far from Herd Farm, Eckert Reservoir. So I went for a walk and there was just like a couple of cows, some sheep, and it was just grassland. And even though it was about 10 minutes walk from my place and I couldn't hear a single car and it was like pin drop silence. And I just really took that time to self-reflect and just be like, what do you want to do with your life? Like, what are you doing? And just trying to reflect and cool down my mind, basically. And when I got home, I had a sense of clarity, and obviously I was feeling much better, and I could see there was like an overwhelming sense of creativity, just like consuming my mind. I just got to a point where I need to get this out. I need to go somewhere and get me my guitar. And I just had to literally run inside, pick up my guitar. And then I just started singing. And then the lyrics just came out. And then the melody came. I mean, it didn't come out as it is now, obviously. That took a year to get to the point where it was. But the framework actually just came out, and there was a sense of purpose there, and then there was an intention that was enrooted within that song. And that's what I feel with Tribal Man made it a really strong track for me, because there was something raw and it was something true that was embedded within it that had a really good close connection to me. And so every time when I sing it, I just feel so good. And yeah.
Did it come to you when you were on that walk? Then did you?
No.
No. So there's none of the lyrics or anything.
Nothing. I just came home and I was just like, I remember it exactly. I just came home, I was like, I feel so good. Then I just went, okay, I need my guitar. I just sit on my guitar, and then it wasn't even a sense where I had a song or I had a tune. I had to transpose it onto the guitar and figure out the chords of the melody. I just had so much creativity, and the way I channel that is through music. So I just had to sit with the guitar, not knowing what I was going to create, whether it was going to be something or whatever, but I just had to release what was inside of me in something constructive and artsy. If I was an artist, like fine artist, I'd be sitting with a paintbrush and stuff, or if I was a dancer, I'd be dancing. So with me, it was just, I needed, nature kind of gave me that energy and that source, and then I just had to like put it out into something. And yeah, Tribal Man came. It was really nice. I think that I've only had a very few occasions where I've written songs like that. It's being overwhelmed. It doesn't have to be a negative sense of overwhelming. It can be positive. It can be anything. But when you've got so much of emotion or so much influence or inspiration or whatever it is, it tends to just want to come out like, there's no control over it. I don't know if you can relate to that as well, but it's just like, forget everyone, don't talk to me. I'm going to do this right now. It's in my head. I need to get it in there on paper or on my phone. So, yeah.
And you, this might be a tough question in terms of, finding the right words to articulate it, but can you describe what that feeling's like? So I do know what you're talking about, but like, I guess when you know that, like, so you said, like, with this start of this, you weren't feeling great about the work and the stress and all that kind of stuff, and that has a particular type of feeling. Then you went for the walk that really made you feel a lot better, and then there's the creativity overwhelm type feeling. Like, I guess I'm asking if you can describe what that feeling's like and how you know that then that's this is when I need to go and create.
It's like it's like an adrenaline of determination. Like, when you're just so focused and be like, right, I'm going to go for this. And it's just like, say if you've got an exam and then you sit in your exam, you've got 3 hours to complete every question. So all your focus is channeled there. And it's just, you've got a deep sense of attention. And it's just like that when you've got so much of this positive energy of whatever's coming with you, even if it's negative, you have to get it out in the sense where it acts like an adrenaline. So you're on this high, and while you're releasing that, you're coming down off this high and you're feeling this sense of release. So at first, it's just like, I think it's like in this scenario, I was just really excited. Like, I thought, okay, I feel like something's coming. It's just,
and that was,
good.
It was excitement for something, but not knowing what it was. So, like,
exactly.
I'm definitely familiar with, like, I have like an idea for a song. I'd be like, oh, that's exciting. I can't wait to work on that. And I think I do get this, what you're talking about. But like, I don't think I'm as good at channeling it now as I used to be. I think I used to be a lot more disciplined with then when I think I used to write a lot more than I do now of my own stuff anyway. Okay. So I think that I used to just get into that pattern. But I guess from my perspective, I'm thinking of it in terms of like, when that's the calling now is to go and let that thing come out.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's interesting stuff. Yeah, that sounds great. And so then you say it just came out. You just started playing and singing, and that all just came out from there. And then did you have to do much refining afterwards, or was it just
quite a bit of refining? I mean, like the tune. I remember I was listening to my voice memos, like just clearing out a load of junk, and then I was just like, "What is this? Tribal Man?" And then I clicked on it, and I was like, "What is that? Seriously?" Like, because the tune was just. And the way I was singing 3 years ago is very different to how I sing now. And it's just quite interesting to how you reflect on your tone, like everything about the way I sing has changed significantly. I had a really indie tone, and it was quite nice, like, but it feels very alien now when I listen to it. But yeah, when I was listening back to the voice recording, the melodic tune was quite simplified. It wasn't there was it was just more like a framework. So it was like a guide of where my voice could go, rather than adding any finishings to it or anything like that. And it was just something that I like to work like that. So even when I write a song and I don't want to sit too much in it and just get too engrossed in the track, and I like to always give it fresh eyes or fresh ears in this scenario. So I'll always lay down the framework, and then I'd improvise separately as a separate recording, and then listen to those two recordings separately and see what I like after hearing it a week, a month, 6 months, even a year. So there's songs where I haven't listened to for about a year now. I've got there somewhere. And it's just, when I do listen to it, I was like, okay, that I like. I can use that here, actually, in this new song. So I think it's really important that what I've learned through songwriting is that, like, laying down the groundwork when you first get that spark of inspiration and that adrenaline, you don't need to write the full song, or you don't need to think that it's ready, because when you listen back, it usually you'll always have something new to add to it and stuff like that. So just being I played the patient game with that song, I think. And I don't know, I think maybe about after I wrote that, I think that was in August, and then it was November, 3 months I think it took me to finish that song along with the other tracks in the EP. So yeah, October, November was when I roughly released that EP. So three months of refining and stuff like that. Yeah. I've got all those stages where I sang it again, sang it again, sang it again. So it's quite nice to reflect and like see how the song shaped. And it's nice because I actually forgot they were there until I was cleaning out my phone, and then I was just like, oh wow, like I never thought that that's where it was, and I'd forgotten what it had sounded like. So it's good to even like for self-development and reflecting on, you know, how much work that can go into a song before you even go to the studio. It's just interesting to see how it like blossoms. What did you change? What did you add? And even if there was something that you you might have not added in the current song, and you listen to the first recording, like actually I like that now, so I'll just take that and put that there. So it's very like crossover, up down kind of nature of what way of like of doing it, of writing a song, definitely. Well, for me that was Tribal Man.
Yeah. And what's that like in comparison to your other songs? Do you often kind of just do that, just sit down with your guitar and see what comes out, or do you have like, because I guess it's this different, what we're talking about there is that different stage of like there's kind of editing and refining, isn't there, after the initial idea? But so I imagine you go through that with most of your songs. But do you have a thought, like do you normally like sit down to write lyrics, or do you just let things come out naturally, or do you have ideas of like I'd like to write a song about this, or?
Well, usually when I want to like deliberately sit down and write a song, I'll first spend time to just think of an emotion, or I'm very driven by feelings. I mean, I'm not very good at just thinking of a topic and then writing a song. I really need to feel it, even if I've not experienced that feeling myself in that context. So say heartbreak or betrayal, something like that. I've not experienced that. So if I had, then I'd have to think, or maybe listen to other artists' songs and really feel their pain, or maybe maybe watch a movie related to that. So anything that can inspire that emotion and let that emotion sort of consume you. It can be a bit like detrimental. Obviously, if it's a negative emotion, it could just make you feel really bad. But that's kind of the art of like immersing yourself within the like creative writing in whatever context and stuff. So I like to really consume myself with that thought process, and I create figments in my own imagination that are not true, to a point where I create scenarios with putting myself in those scenarios, and then I try to shape a story and then a context or an idea. So there was one where I was really into Greek philosophy, and I used to love reading up on Aristotle at the time, and the ideals of love and the meaning behind a soulmate. What does it mean? The romanticized philosophy. So when I was working on a collaborative project with a friend of mine, he created a beat for his girlfriend, sorry, and he just sent it to me. He was like, oh, do you think you could do something on this? And I was like, I've never written anything for anyone before. But as soon as I heard the music, it came out. And then the lyrics was about the idea of taking another being, another part in another part of the world, and connecting in another realm. So it's like you're in a separate time space. You're in your own you're in your own time zone that's excluding everyone else, and everything's in slow motion, and there's a romanticized feeling of it. And I got off that the idea of the Greek philosophy around Zeus making human man as beings with 2 heads, 4 arms, and 4 legs. And then by short story, Cliff Notes version is where he felt intimidated by the human race. And there's a lot of drama up there. And he struck man in 2, splitting them in half, which is why we look the way we do, according to Greek philosophy. And then that's why there's always that that meaning in that saying of looking for your other half and not feeling complete until you find that person and that electricity, that chemistry. So with that ideology, I wrote a song. So it just depends on where I am in that time frame, and what I'm listening to, and what I'm reading, and things like that. So I don't try to create things that I'm unfamiliar with, because then I can't really give it that true, my own authentic voice. Otherwise, it'll just feel very detached. So even when I've done some commissioned work with people and I've written songs for them, I've always tried to put myself in their shoes, or just feel, or like get to know them a bit more, and just really get a bit more of a story there, and then bounce back ideas, and they've seemed to work out quite well. So
yeah, it's all really interesting. Thanks for sharing it. I hadn't thought of that starting from an emotion before. I always kind of thought of it the opposite way of you're having a topic and then working from there, like, well, what would the emotion be in that topic? But it's interesting to kind of I guess I'm just in my head is looking like, you have the emotions, the roots in a way, and then the topic grows out of it. Whereas I've always been a bit more like, oh, that's a nice tree. What's at the bottom of that?
Oh, okay.
A funny way of putting it.
Yeah, that's a good reference. I like that. That's nice.
Yeah, I have to try that sometime, doing it the other way around.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'll try it the other way around too.
Good stuff. So let's move into section 2 now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests to share with us a songwriting tip. So what would your tip be for us, Manuka?
My tip would be, I kind of was talking about it already before.
That happens a lot in this podcast.
Yeah. So it was just about, what was my tip? I had a really good one, actually. My mind's gone blank, Ben.
All right.
Oh, God.
What have we talked about? We talked about the starting with emotion, the channeling stuff, and kind of coming back to it afterwards.
Yeah.
Going for a walk. What else did we talk about?
I think so to summarize what I've been saying is that being in the moment. So yeah, that's what it was. So being in the moment, whenever you're trying to write a song, sometimes it'll be very difficult to consciously and just be like, okay, today I'm going to give myself this target to write a song. Especially if you haven't written a song before, if you're very new to songwriting, it can be very difficult because you've not already developed a flow or a way of processing thoughts and creative writing or creative thinking, or even creative references, for example. So what I would kind of suggest is that being present in the moment, to the sense whenever you're living out your day-to-day, what kind of sparks your mind? If you're going out for a walk, do you see a weirdly shaped cloud? And think reflectively on that, jot that down. So then that helps you think, okay, my mind is thinking like this, and this is what imagery my mind likes to kind of reference to. And then things like, if you identify, my reference is always nature, so I'll always look at the way a bumblebee would take pollen from one flower, and I'd really just engross myself and look and see how an animal looks, and then looking at caricatures of different things, engaging the senses, and jotting all these down, and it's more of a long-winded process. It's not like a quick top tip thing. You can just do this and then off you go kind of thing. I'll be honest, it's quite you've got to work on this and like grind on this kind of process. But once you've got that creative library in your head, and then when you want to write a song, you've got so much to refer to, and you've got so much scope to where you can take your song. It can be, you can transform lyrics from being literal wordings into metaphorical references. So you can really open up the track to, and the meaning to be literally anything, and it can be really poetic in a way than just straightforward. He broke my heart. He did this. You could just, instead of doing that, you can reference how nature falls on autumn, and in the winter it bears cold, and then the frost bites like this bites my heart, kind of, do you know? And it's just like being able to just spontaneously, then this kind of stuff would just come out because you've already referenced, and you know triggers and what you've seen, what you've heard, and what you've smelled, and what you've touched, and things like that. So I 100% recommend that, because that will take, it'll give you goosebumps when you're writing, definitely, because it's quite magical to be poetic in your songwriting and taking it into a much more like artistic approach in how you express yourself, really. And it's quite fun to see what imagery you can use to express an emotion, and whether you can play on an emotion through certain imagery as well. So it's really fun, and it's not a chore, definitely, but it's a grind to do that. I mean, I love doing that. I get up in the morning, and if I'm having a week where I'm just really bad, because I'm writing short stories, I love creative writing, and I love writing poetry. So this is something, if I'm having a dry week where I'm just like, I want to write something, but I can't think of anything, I'll just daydream, looking out on like at the view, looking out the window, and if it's raining, how does the rain fall in the window? Is there someone walking by? What do they look like? What are they wearing? They're walking the dog. Like, how is their posture? Are they feeling sad? Like that game of what we do, people watching, we kind of create a story. That person's this person, or that person's that person. It's creating that constant inquisitive that inquisitive nature. I can't even say the word. Oh gosh, yeah. So yeah, and then once you can sustain that, you can channel it into something quite productive.
Yeah, it's really good. I think it's really good. It's really practical advice as well. I think a lot of the time when people are new to songwriting, it's like you're not know, like thinking it's either like you're meant to have that creativity coming out straight away, whereas that's much more kind of used to like easy steps people can follow. Like, oh, I'll just start paying attention to these little things, or little things that you notice. And I think a lot of times people, because everyone notices things all the time, but a lot of time people don't express them, do they? You kind of think that's nobody cares about that. But yeah, like those little things that you notice, bumblebee doing a certain thing, it's all worthwhile things that you don't know when they're going to be worthwhile sometimes, but capturing them all, and then you just train yourself to pay that little bit more attention. And that's part of what makes a great artist is spotting those things that, and I imagine some of the stuff you get down, doesn't get used in any songs, but it's all part of that process of developing that skill.
100%. And I mean, even this process is so good for like just your own sanity as well. It's just so nice, like just to practice and being present in that moment and taking in what you've got around you. And if you're able to channel that creatively, then brilliant. But if not, it's good just to have there as a reference to think and to reflect, to also be like, oh, I remember that day I was looking at this and then I was feeling this way. So that might think or spark something. So it doesn't have to be a direct inspiration. It can be indirect by you writing something down, going away, and then coming back and reading it and trying to remember how you felt that day. And then, because sometimes when you're in the moment, you don't really even pay attention to yourself or how like you're feeling or your thoughts are. But until afterwards, when you remember things, you reflect better. So that's also another thing to consider when anyone's writing a song or stuff like that, to hold on to memories or anything that's happened in the past that has some sort of significance as well, and connecting it to the present moment and what they can see and observe. And that way you can structure something quite beautiful.
Hi everyone, I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. Sorry for the interruption. Just want to drop a quick note in here to say that the Swan Song Project is a registered charity. If you're enjoying this podcast and you'd like to consider supporting us, there are several ways you can donate through the website. It all goes towards supporting more people living with terminal illnesses to write and record their original songs. If you'd also like to show your support for the podcast, we always appreciate any reviews you can leave us. Likes, shares, subscribes, all that kind of business. Always really helps. So if you'd like to do any of that, it's really much appreciated. Hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast. Yeah. So let's move into section 3 now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests to share with us a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. So what song have you chose for us here, Manuka?
Yeah, so I've chosen a song called "Darling Come Home," which is a track that I have written. It's an acoustic, live recorded version of the song. So yeah, have a listen.
Close my eyes. I hear your laughter. I pray for happy ever after. A puzzle piece to this jigsaw. We wait for you to come through that door, darling. Come home, darling. Song, you're the spider to our family web. It's not time for you to go. Hold on a little longer, and I'll sing you my song, darling. Come home. Open your eyes when I sing you this song, darling. Come home, darling. Come home. Darling, come home, darling, come home.
Okay, brilliant. So that was Darling Come Home by Manuka. Yeah, it's a powerful song, Manuka. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, this song is a really vulnerable, personal song I had dedicated to my brother who had passed. It was actually at a time where I'd written. I remember this moment where I was with my family in the waiting room, waiting, and my brother was on life support, like breathing machine, and it was just at that point where I had to come to terms with that he wasn't gonna make it, and it was just really difficult. And I was like pleading with like the world, trying to say, just bring him back, like give me a miracle. I just want you to come home. I want it to be back to normal. You know, you still needed here, like, and just really trying to persuade him to wake up, basically. And yeah, it was 4 o'clock in the morning, and it was just my mum, my sister was on the sofa next to me, just like knocked out. They were exhausted. I just couldn't sleep, and my anxiety levels were so high, and the only way I could try and process and like calm myself down was through writing lyrics and talking to him in song. So it was it wasn't intentional to make a song actually, and I actually made and finished a song and sang it at the funeral. So it was a very quick process, um, and it really helped me kind of get through it as well. It helped me and those around me just, hold on to something. And I mean, it was of course a difficult time, and it was a very traumatic experience. I mean, his passing wasn't something we had expected. He was fine the day before, and the next day he just passed. So it was an element of shock, of trauma, and just like pain and anger, everything in one. And it was just really, really difficult, and denial, just everything. So, I mean, we were blessed. We had a lot of people come and support us, and we heard so many thrilling stories that we had never heard of my brother. And it turned out he was an angel. Like he had learning disabilities, so he was autism. So um, the world had given him many, many barriers in his life, but he never really acknowledged those, and he achieved far more than the world had expected of him. And he had touched so many lives, and so many people had come to us and shared their stories and how he had touched their life. And in that way, that kind of helped us grieve and remember him in a more positive light. And it kind of embedded the song a bit more, that, the lyrics say that you're the spider to our family web. It's not time for you to go. He's the one that made the web. He's the one that held our family together. When he left, it broke us apart, and it was really difficult to put us back together, sort of thing. I mean, like anything like that. And even extended family, he was the family web. He'd always think of others before himself. He'd connect with people from all walks of life. He'll give them his attention, and he was a very, 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 very kind soul. And yeah, this song. I mean, even when I sing it now, when I perform, sometimes I get really overwhelmed. But it's no longer something that I I can remember the negative sides of it. I do get that at times, but when I sing this song, I remember positive memories of when we were young and his joyous laugh and mischievous behavior and our sibling relationships and stuff. So the song helps me connect to those memories as well in a way. And it now reminds me less of the trauma that I had when I wrote the song. So even when I listen to this recording and I listen back to the pain I was experiencing when I was singing that song, it was very shaky. It was quite weak because my emotions were just overwhelming. But now, when I sing this, I'm a lot more stronger. I can really harness the emotion with strength rather than let it harness me or overwhelm me. So, which is a nice sort of sense of growth and a reminder that things we will eventually get better, and you can cope through it, and that despite him actually physically not being there, he's always there. So within me, within the family and stuff, and we're always being reminded of him through what we do and how we choose to live our lives in his memory.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear about that. But so pleased that you got such benefit out of doing the songwriting, and obviously you had a good family around to support you and things like that. But yeah, I can't imagine how tough that must have been. And obviously you told me a little bit about what happened before. I didn't know it had been that sudden of how quickly that had happened. But I also like what you were saying about how great a person he was and how much big an impact he had. And then it was making me think as well that that you still having this song that you share with people, and the benefits that then that song can bring to other people. So then it's kind of his impact still carrying on of like I think like songs like this to other people who will definitely relate to that experience. Having that song can bring so much comfort and joy to them, which then is also connected to his legacy still reaching people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've sang it a few times where people have come out to me and told me that they had someone who had passed away, and it brings forward a community. I feel like when you sort of let your walls down a little bit and share your vulnerabilities, people are drawn towards that and they want to share and communicate, and you build a sense of community through music, through conversing and through sharing. And there's a lot of taboo with having to hold in and to stay strong and to cope with any pain and suffering alone rather than telling people your problems, because apparently no one wants to know your problems, and why would you burden them with your problems? They've got plenty of their own. But a matter of fact, what we don't realize is that it's actually lightening yourself along with them, because they could connect and resonate with yourself. So I've learned that sharing the song, and I always like to explain the song before I sing it, and just to give context. Every song I write, I like to give a bit of a story to it, just so people can understand why I wrote the song as well. So I feel most places, whenever I perform, people really do connect to that track in particular, and it's really nice because that's the most personal piece I've ever written, and I'm grateful that I have been able to write that and channel my pain through writing a song. He gave me that kind of gold star and that blessing as well. Yeah. He helped me write a song before he passed, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it kind of ties a lot of stuff we'll be talking about kind of ties together here in a nice way of like what you're saying then about when sharing these experiences, and like it's for an artist to do that and to do something which is really vulnerable and personal, and then to share that is kind of like, I always think of that as it's a real gift to other people, because like not everyone. It's not. I think that everyone can do that, but it's not everyone's in a position to do that. You know, so like, and what we were talking about earlier, those steps of developing your voice, developing your style and your way of expressing yourself. When you've done that groundwork, then if you can put those skills to use on a really personal and difficult experience to share that with other people, then people who don't have that means of expression yet, haven't found their outlet, hearing someone else has been through that, it's that thing that was a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just like, when you hit it, and that's, all my favorite songs are like that, when a song says something, it's like, that's exactly how I feel, but I hadn't thought of putting it in those words or in that sound, and it does make you feel so much better, doesn't it?
Yeah, so true. Totally relate to that.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm pleased it's you've got that benefit from it, and you can continue playing the song.
Thank you.
In his memory.
Thank you so
much. What was his name, by the way?
Hamid. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely to hear about him. And yeah, really nice to meet you, Manuka. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. Have you got anything? Yeah, thank you.
It's been a really nice session. I really enjoyed this.
That's good. Yeah, it's really nice. Have you got anything coming up that you want to mention? Are you doing some online workshops or anything like that?
I deliver monthly free sessions, Music to My Mind, where it's like a peer-to-peer support group about just basically using music as a medium to converse about thoughts and feelings and advancing our imagination. It's about 40 minutes to 1 hour session. And yeah, I'm just going to be releasing a lot of new music soon, fingers crossed. So post September, I'll be releasing my new sound, Acoustic Vibes. So you can hit me up on social media at Just Manuka. And even if you wanted to connect with me after regarding our conversation, Ben, or if anyone felt like they wanted to reach out, more than welcome and happy to lend an ear as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much. I'll put all your links in the description so people can check out your pages and get in touch. Yeah, great stuff. Thanks a lot, Manuka. And
thank you so much.
Thank you. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll be back with another episode soon.